to Living Legacies. I'm Tom Morrow, your host, and today we've got a special guest with us, Bill Arballo, former mayor of Del Mar, longtime newsman, longtime public relations man, longtime friend. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thanks for asking me, Tom, and when you say longtime friend, I say that, I feel that.
Well, we go back to when I was at the Times Advocate in the late 70s, and you were doing the public relations for the Del Mar Fair. And of course, you were an institution there. But let's go back further than that. You were born and raised here in the county, right?
I was born in Nestor, California, and that between National City and Chula Vista.
Oh yeah,
just a little.
Nestor. I've been to Nestor. I know. I used to buy some great jerky down there in the Nestor store.
Right, and that's all about that there is. There is a store and a service station.
You can buy beef jerky and lotto tickets there.
Right.
Well, now you went to high school at Oceanside Carlsbad?
Yes, I graduated in 1941.
You know, I see a picture here. Our first pictures of you on the starting line. You ran track at Oceanside Carlsbad. Now, you ran a rather interesting something that isn't even done anymore.
Well, it was a 3/4 mile, 1320 we used to call it.
1320. 1,320 yards.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
It was short of a mile,
yeah.
But it was 3 times around the track, right here in Oceanside.
Yeah.
A couple blocks from here, I guess. And Dean Green was the coach. Dick Rutherford, who was a rough coach, I'll tell you, he got the most out of you. And I was afraid of him, so I ran like hell.
Now, anybody around today that you remember that you graduated from high school and still live in the area?
I didn't graduate with him, but John Steiger was around then, and
yeah, he was a couple of years ahead of you.
Yeah, he was a couple of years ahead, and Edith Swaim.
Oh yeah.
And I think she was Edith Ronzi, I believe, and John Daly. His father was active in school at the time, and the McClellans from Carlsbad, Patsy McClellan. She's married now, so I'm not sure.
Sure. Well, now you graduated in '41, and of course that was the year that we entered the war in World War II. And when did you go into the service?
Shortly after, in '42, late '42, I went into the U.S. Army. I volunteered. They weren't drafting them at 18. I was 18 when I went in, and went into the medics. I was with the Air Force for a while, Air Force medics, and then I volunteered to get in the infantry. So
wait a minute, you were in the Air Corps and you volunteered to go in the infantry?
Yeah, there wasn't enough activity in the Air Force, so when the word went out that they needed some volunteers for the infantry, I volunteered, and they accepted me as a medic.
I'll bet they did.
I was a combat medic.
Yeah.
And,
now, what unit were you?
34th Division, 135th Infantry Regiment.
Now, wasn't that the outfit that Bob Dole was in?
It was the Red Bull Division.
Oh, okay. That's out of the Midwest.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember the National Guard, the Iowa National Guard was the Red Bull Division.
Yeah, they were all from back there.
Yeah.
And of course, having enlisted early, I was always the youngest one that was in the outfit. So whenever they went anyplace, I naturally went with them. So I learned about bars and that sort of thing at an early age. You know, they didn't go to the USO.
You were just an observer, though.
I was an
You didn't participate in any of these extracurricular
not at all.
activities.
But I had a lot of fun.
Well, now tell me, you saw a lot of action in Italy during World War II.
No, not a lot of action. I saw some action, and I was wounded.
Well, I was going to say that was enough, wasn't it?
Yeah, it got me back to the rear echelon.
You've got a pretty good story to tell on that. Tell us what happened.
Well, the Germans had the 88. It was a cannon, and it was very, very accurate. And one night they waited until we got into a saddle, the whole company. We were advancing, and when we got in the saddle, then they started.
This is in Italy?
In Italy, We were on our way to Florence. And
This is
then
up in the northern part of the country.
Northern part, yeah, beyond Rome. And they started bombing the saddle, and I just happened to be
In the wrong place?
In the wrong place, and I got hit. But when I was in the service overseas, anybody got a package, I always got a part of it, a package of goodies. So and they always used to tell me, if we ever need you, you better come running. And I never forgot that. That night, you know, I was hurt, but I took care of as many of the other people that were also wounded.
Now, how many did you figure you helped that night?
You know, I haven't got any idea how many it was. And then I passed out. So they carried me back to the
You must have done something, because they give you the Silver Star for that.
Yeah, I guess I was just doing my job. I was just paying these guys back for all the goodies they'd given me in the good times. So
Well, that's a good way of putting it, I
yeah.
guess.
So no, I was just doing what I had been trained to do.
Now,
So-
was your wound such that you were sent back to the States, or did you have to go back into action?
No, I was hit in the knee, and so I was in the hospital, I guess, 3 months or so. But they reassigned me. I didn't come back to the States. I stayed in Italy for.
You were
till-
still breathing and
Oh, yeah.
able to move around, so they kept you over
so,
there. Yeah.
So, and
Well, here's a picture of your. When you got out as a sergeant, but these are your corporal stripes, right?
no, I was a corporal. That's as far as I got.
That's
A
as far as
line
you got?
corporal,
Okay.
yeah. When I went to a medical training school, and they gave me a T5, a technician 5th grade. But when I got in the infantry, there is no technicals. You're either a sergeant, or you're a corporal, or you're a private, or you're just a doughfoot. And so I was promoted to corporal, line corporal. So.
Okay.
And I left the service as a line corporal.
Now you finished the war in Italy,
Yes.
and then you came back in '46.
What happened is that we were in Italy. We were going to go to Japan. We were in a bivouac area, ready to go to Japan, and that's when the war was over. That's when.
After all you'd been through there, they were gonna ship you off to Japan.
Yeah. We were ready to go, and so instead of the ships were there, so the ships were routed to the mainland instead of.
That's probably one of the happiest days of your life, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought it was a good show.
Where were you when you heard about the war coming to an end?
It was a little town, I believe they call it Caserta, in Italy. It was a relocation center. That's where, and that was mentioned very much so during this war in Kosovo. That's where the Air Force, and they were flying out of there in Barry.
Oh, yeah.
And still there, I guess, because
sure.
the names kept coming up, and I remember them.
Right.
As I'll tell you a story. When in Casino, it was Mana Casino, that was a monastery. We were. That was when we were in Anza, and they were bombing from Casino. They could observe because he was up on a mountain. So we had to bomb Casino. Finally, to get rid of the observation towers up there. When my daughters were in Italy about 2 years ago, they stopped there, and in a restaurant, and so the innkeeper was telling me about his father starting this restaurant and all that, and my youngest daughter said, if my father hadn't been here to take care of Casino, you wouldn't have this restaurant. He bought the meal for him, bought him wine and everything else. And he had a bunch of pictures of the troops
Yeah.
But,
It's a wonder anything's left of that. That it was a gorgeous spot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a wonder anything's left of it today, because they did have to do a lot of bombardment.
Yeah. Well, it was something had to be done because we couldn't. Well, they could see everything that was happening down below. So
very strategic
Yeah,
position. Where did so what did you do when you got out of the service?
I was going to be a pharmacist, and I went to USC, which is very highly accredited for School of Pharmacy. And then I got cold feet, and I figured, well, why do I want to stay in medicine? So I came back to Del Mar, and Barley Bray, who owned the San Diego Citizen, asked me if I'd like to do odd jobs there at the paper, you know.
And there are a lot of odd jobs to do in a weekly newspaper.
Oh yeah, you know that. Yeah. Because he knew me because I used to send letters home to my family, and they were giving them to the paper, and he was running them, and so I never got any royalty for that or anything. But anyway.
Well, you got a job.
Yeah, I got a job. I mean, he said just doing odd jobs. So I learned how to work a linotype. I could do a gallon an hour. You know, that's a machine that you type on lead, and how to run
Those
the press.
Those things are in museums today.
Yeah. And my typewriter is from that era, and I still use it. And I think you've got a picture of it someplace.
Yeah, we've got a picture of it right here. In fact, this is what year was this?
That had to be in the 70s, I believe.
But that typewriter is the one that.
Oh yeah,
I
still use.
Looks like an old
It's
Underwood.
a Royal.
It's a Royal.
Yeah, and I got that through the GI Bill. You remember they? Yeah, you were. If you were working in that kind of a business, you could buy some tools for the industry you were working at. So.
When you're back in Del Mar, you're working at the Citizen. Your life then starts going in many different directions.
I left the paper and the Citizen because Eddie Reed and Walter Dauchi were doing the fair, and they talked me into going to work for them. And then when Eddie Reed, the late Eddie Reed now, had to go to work full time for Del Mar Racetrack, I inherited the fair job. And that's where you and I ran into
right,
each other.
and you were doing the public relations.
Yes,
I mean, and this is something that you just kind of learned on your own, right?
Right,
But it was, a lot of it in those days was nothing but common sense, just getting the information out there.
Yeah, and well, you had to write newspaper style or radio or whatever.
And you had that experience from the Citizen.
Right, So, and that's how I got involved in National Days Festival in Indio, the Farmers Fair at Hemet, and some of these other. At the same time, I was doing features for the San Diego Daily Journal or the San Diego Union. And when I was overseas working for UPI, I did quite a bit for Copley News Service.
I'm smiling because overseas was where?
Well, it was in Hawaii.
Hawaii. Well, there was a time when we thought that was overseas.
Right. Yeah.
Of course, you went over there and to work with a former Del Mar businessman.
Well, Paul Mann was manager of the Del Mar Fair, and also owned Seco Saving the Loan in Encinitas, and he sold that, and it was that time of the year where he had to make reinvest the money.
Right.
So he bought Hilo Kona Saving the Loan in Hilo, Hawaii, sight unseen. He'd never been to the Big Island, but
you hadn't either.
I hadn't either, and so he talked me into going back to working with him again. And Dale Bricks with United Press in San Diego had been transferred to Honolulu, Hawaii, and heard that I was over there. And of course, we knew each other because of this PR business and all. And he asked me if I'd work for UPI, so be the Big Island correspondent. So
So you spent what, 7 or 8 years doing that?
8 years, yeah. And I was fortunate. I got to cover some pretty good stories there.
Well, I see. Here's a picture of a Well, first of all, I had the picture. What is this picture here?
Well, that's a farmer's fair at Hemet, which is now in Lake Paris, but farmer's fair, so we all had to wear farmer's costumes.
Looked like farmers.
Yeah, looked like farmers, you know.
And then
you can tell that I'm a farmer by the looks of that hat there, you know.
Now, who are these two guys out there on this lava field?
These are astronauts, and you remember Apollo 13 had some problems in Hawaii, and they went to, all of the astronauts went to the Big Island to train for 3 days, because before they got to the moon, they figured that the lava flows were the closest thing that run into when they got to the moon. So they brought all this stuff. What they're doing there is picking up rocks, and these are prototypes of equipment that they took to the moon. Yeah. An interesting sidebar on that, you know, all these carriages that the ladies have now instead of the four-wheel buggies. The astronauts took a prototype of that to the moon. It could break down, they're very light, and so they can, you know, in small space.
Sure.
And from that came these modern carriages for the kids.
I'll be darned.
Yeah. The original one, they had a little basket, and they threw the moon rocks into
Right.
them.
Right.
But they used them they used them in the lava fields of Hawaii because it was rough terrain, and they'd tip over and this, that, and the other thing, and so they would get to develop these things to their liking.
Now here's a picture of a well-known character. You're interviewing. It was Vice President Gerald Ford at that time?
Correct, yeah. That was a week before he became president.
This was still in Hawaii?
That was taken at the Mauna Kea Beach Hotel by a UPI photographer, and I don't like to take pictures or be in pictures, but he said, get in there. This photographer, he said, he's the president. Next week he'll be the president.
Yeah.
So
you had known, you knew at that time that Nixon was going to resign?
Well, there was a lot of talk of it, but they knew, the Washington Press Corps knew
what was going on.
What was going on. They knew that the following week, just like he said, he's going to be the president next week. And he was.
Yeah.
And but that's how I got involved with that. And you can see that the security then was very, very loose.
I guess.
You know.
Well, now what year did you come back from overseas?
About 1974, 75, something like that.
About the time this picture was taken.
Well,
now here's a picture of you with a bunch of mayors, former mayors of Del Mar, and you're among them.
Well, I'm the third one.
You're the third one from the left. Now,
John Barr, or Tom Douglas was the first mayor of Del Mar, and then John Barr, and then I was the third mayor of Del Mar.
Now, were you in those days, were you elected to the council and you just took turns being mayor? Is that how it worked, or were you elected?
No, it wasn't necessarily terms. You elected, but you didn't succeed necessarily.
Yeah, you elected from the council.
Yeah.
Now, what year were you on the council?
In the early '60s.
So this is before you went overseas.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
I went overseas. The interesting thing, you know, what we're spending now on campaign to be elected, I spent 63 cents for my election. And
you spent 63 cents?
That's
what did you spend it on?
Well, my daughters were the campaign managers, and they ran out of stamps. They went running up to the post office, you know, and bought stamps. And 63 cents worth. I fired them right after, and I was elected.
You fired your own daughters?
They did everything. They ran the mimeograph. It was a mimeograph machine.
Were they the ones that talked you into running?
No, some people in Del Mar.
But you weren't going to spend any money.
I wasn't going to spend any money.
Oh, that's
and
funny.
They delivered the leaflets all over Del Mar and everything.
Well, now, here's a picture of you and your wife, and these are your two daughters?
Two daughters, Loretta and Teresa, and a granddaughter, Elizabeth.
Now, what year was this taken?
That had to be sometime in the 70s. So that house is the Alvarado House, which is now owned by the museum at Del Mar, and it sits on the fairgrounds at Del Mar. It's open every fair as a historical home.
Well, we're about to run out of time because we could have talked for 3 hours for all the things that you've done. But for the past several years, you have been a writer for the Coast News, and you told me that you're going to do something this next week that kind of surprised me, and that is.
Well, I'm retired, so I think there's a story in this week's Coast News indicating
You're pulling the pin.
That I'm going to pull the pin. That's so that I can travel and not have to worry about a deadline of having to come back a certain day or anything. I can go and come as I want.
So this is it.
This is.
You're not going to send any missives on your trips. You might send something back.
You never know.
Pretty hard to go away, walk away from it.
Yeah, it's you never know. But full time, no more.
At age 77, you're finally.
Yeah, I think it's give the young kids a chance.
Well, we had one of those young kids on one of your cohorts on the Coast News. We had him on here not too long ago.
Was that Jack Broward?
Yeah.
Yeah. He and I were, we ran together in San Diego. He there about the same time as I was.
He was at Naval Training Center, NTC, when I went through boot camp there in '58.
Is that right? Of course, he was a sailor. We.
Oh yeah. He was a chief petty officer and ran the hoist there.
Right.
The newspaper.
Yeah.
But, well, Bill, lots of luck on your new career, being a retirement. I'm going to miss you because your stuff has been around either as a PR release or as a news story for as long as I've been in San Diego County, and that's not that long compared to your long career. But I wish you all the luck in the world, and don't be a stranger. Keep in touch with what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Yeah, thank you for coming on and telling our story. I'm Tom Morrow. This has been Living Legacies with Bill Arballo, longtime journalist, former Del Mar mayor, and good friend. We'll see you next time. This program is made possible through the generous underwriting grants of Hatter Williams and Purdy Insurance Services of Oceanside, providing North County with complete insurance needs for more than half a century. The TriQuest Corporation, providing quality office and manufacturing space in Oceanside. And the North County Times, serving all of North County with complete local daily news coverage and internet services.